like first 5 minutes, like first few minutes, but turn it down low and then fade it out. Okay, like don't keep it on because especially when we start talking, because like it'll be distractive. So like the intro part, like when we're just kind of getting on. Hmm. Listen, we try. No, I'm trying to move right. Huh? It's cool. Hey, what's good, everybody? Happy Thursday. Um, yeah, happy Thursday, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Bussn It Up Thursday, as typical, as normal. Today, yeah, man, it's Thursday. This is what we do. This is what we do on Thursdays. We kind of have just different interactions, and so tonight we are going to kind of continue our dialogue, continue our conversation. I got my man here, Tom, and we're going to kind of get into our topic tonight. We're basically going to talk about entrepreneurship and friendship. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit, but I just want to kind of just share just a little bit of a few announcements and what it is that we have going on and things that has been happening here at the center. So as you know, the last few Thursdays, we've been continuing with our COVID testing here on site. We have been very fortunate to just be able to support other organizations and other just other organizations who are in within the community, share our space, create space for organizations to come in and do their programming in this space. And so we're just extremely excited about that and the work that we continue to do here. Um, the Connect Cafe continues to just do its thing. We're super excited that we actually rather had a pop-up inspection from the county, and they came in and everything went well. So I'm super excited about the staff that we have running and making the Connect Cafe, so that that there is that we're handling your food and everything with care. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it.
Giving them church announcements.
Yeah, you first give it an honor to God, who's the head of our lives. Now, but we're gonna get into the conversation. So listen, I have my man here. His name is Tom. You probably know him from the last few segments that we've done. Typically on the second Thursday, it's Tom, myself, my guy Dave, and Charles. Um, they're both Charles reached out. I believe he has his second COVID shot, and so that kind of took him under. And so we wanted to, make sure he's good. You know what I mean? He doing his thing. And Dave, he's just a hardworking man, so he's out doing his thing as well. So me and Tom gonna hold it down tonight. But we definitely have a great conversation that we wanted to have. But I wanted to kind of jump in and just number one, just introduce yourself. It's more personal. I know other people may have know a little bit about you just from our various kind of contexts. But what's good? Who's Tom?
Yeah, Tom is low key for one. I stay under the radar. as much as possible. Trying to get out of there. I'm trying to be more visual and be more in the front, even though I really don't want to. So I guess where do I start? I guess my entrepreneurial background started at the age of, I'm gonna say 16, 17. Actually, I take that back. Started in fourth grade. That's when it started in fourth grade at Rankin. Matter of fact, if y'all don't know what the Green store is down in Braddock, I used to, run a candy empire out of there. And basically, I would go there before school. I would buy candy and go to school and sell candy because I knew that the kids had lunch money, and I wanted that money. Um, and that's where I actually learned market share. I couldn't go to the fifth grade hallway, the sixth grade hallway, so I had people in fifth, sixth grade selling candy for me, bringing in a good $25 a day. My mom thought I was stealing it, but I was like, nah, I'm selling candy. It got so good for me and bad for the school that I got banned from selling candy. So that's my entrepreneurial. That's where I started at. Moving on to 17, 16, going into 17. That's when I wrote my first book. Never really put it out there because I just did it for me. It wasn't really to do anything with. It was just something that I wanted to do for me. The name of the book is Self-Motivation from a Teen's Perspective. Wrote it when I was 17. I published it when I was probably, I want to say 18 going into 19. It took like a year to publish, actually. So I did that my first year of college. So yeah, I was 18 going into 19, 2009, 2006. Yeah. From there, I did a lot of stuff in college, but the main thing I did in college was I had an eBay store when eBay was hot. And it was called Personality. And I sold purses, made a lot of money selling purses. Stopped doing that because I felt like eBay was going in my pockets too much, so I let that go. From there, what did I do after that? I did that for a while, actually. I did that for a while. I did that for a few years. It was just something to do, bringing some extra money. In high school, I forgot to mention, I was a part of a program with Microsoft called the Youth It Challenge. And it was out of 5 teams in Pittsburgh. There was teams all over the country, but out of the 5 teams in Pittsburgh, we won. It was called Making a Business. So we had to write a business plan to a legit business that we wanted to start, and we had to present it in front of a lot of people at Kappa. We won. My group won, and we ended up having to face. We went to the national competition now, which was held in New York, and I'll never forget the experience because, just skipping ahead, on my way out the back of the Apollo Theater, I met Diddy. I met P Diddy on my way out. He had his security, but I had my own entourage waiting for me. You know what I mean? I had a driver, grab my bags and stuff, got to the airport, and this was on graduation day. Graduation day. So graduation morning, I was in New York. Graduation afternoon, I was at Woodland Hills High School graduating. Had a police escort and everything. So, that kind of sparked me like, look, I really want to do this, Um, but in the national competition, we actually got to go backstage at the Apollo. We had our own room. We got to rub the log, and we actually got to present our business plan on a national level in front of a lot of people on the stage of the Apollo Theater. So that was real neat and something that I'll never forget. From there, I started my first. I don't want to call it failed business, but that's kind of what happened. It failed. I learned a lot though. Actually, my first LLC when I was 24. Started my first LLC, had an office and everything. Uh, but the clientele just wasn't coming for me. So, I had to put that to the side, just started the family and everything. From there, took a break on, just being an entrepreneur in itself for the most part. Just because my family was growing, having all these kids and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? Having these kids. But then once I left one of my previous jobs, had an opportunity to start my landscaping business. I've been doing that for like the last 5 years, I want to say. The last 5 years. I could have did it full time, but it ain't something that I wanted to do full time. Still could if I wanted to, but it ain't for me. It was just something to bring in, a decent amount of extra money every month without not having that much clientele, and just using that money for savings and for vacations. That's really what that was for. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. You know, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
No, that's dope because a lot of that story, because he and I are very good friends and very close friends. A lot of the journey, a lot of his journey, I was actually alongside him in those journeys in very, very very loose ways. So I remember even for the eBay store. Do you remember when you came up to Waynesburg and we set up the little picture thing on my
Yeah,
bed?
no, I forgot all about that.
Yeah,
And
we were trying to take pictures of the merchandise because you had the little box.
Yeah, the light box.
The little light box.
Yeah, no, I forgot that.
Yeah. Came all the way to Waynesburg because our friendship is like so deep. Actually, Tom, and the reason why, and we'll kind of get into this a little later, but anyway, throughout his journey, we've kind of been connected, even when it came to the summertime.
Wasn't you with me when I had the dump truck and we got the windows?
Yes.
When we got the windows. So that was one that I missed. That was an entrepreneurial thing right there. Got a chance to, I had access to a dump truck, and I was allowed to do what I want to do with it. And we did a cleanup job or two with it.
Yep. And that's what I was actually about to say. So even during college, during the summertime, he was cutting grass, and he asked me to kind of help him with that. And so maybe for about 2 years or so, like that's what we was doing, like during the summertime. And it was funny because I wasn't the best grass cutter, my G. Like I was there, like I was helping, I was making money or whatever, helping them get it done. But for me, that just wasn't my speed. However, that was his speed. And so I was, of course, I was also being compensated for it. But in the longer term, it was actually like helping, like we were both helping each other. And so his entrepreneurial journey, as he stated, has been just always just something that we've been a part of. And it's just really just been dope to kind of see it kind of grow and it kind of develop, even from writing the book. When you first wrote the book, I remember the excitement that you had. I was in college. I remember I was actually sitting in the whip, and you were just like, "Yeah, I finished it." You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I finished the book, and I'm just like, "Yo, that's dope," because we were extremely young at the time, and that actually inspired me. Like, I'm thinking, like, for you to write a book, you got to do all of these just different dynamics. Like, it's not as simple as you just putting stuff on a piece of paper and like you publishing it. I'm like, yo, my bro really wrote a book. Like, you know what I mean? Like it that was dope.
Don't forget when you got Zach.
Oh, yeah. So we cutting the grass. And
we out there in farmland.
Yeah, we out there in the farmland, and I'm cutting the grass, and they had the barbed wires that had the little electric. And I go up to it, and I tried to turn the mower around. Start singing. I was like, listen, I need a break. I need a break. Oh, man. But yeah, it was just great times. And so from that, again, we kind of just developed. And the awesome part also is the fact that we also did church together as well. And so our relationship was friendship, entrepreneurship, and like just regular relationship. And so it just always kind of just continued to kind of grow and to kind of bloom to even just now. So even after college, I started working at a company called Small Seeds. And Small Seeds, they started a new program that was called Inua Ubuntu. And I was actually I was either the first or the second individual that they hired for this new program, which I absolutely love. And they specifically, we worked with young Black males, kind of just doing some, support for them. And in doing so, later on, I reached out to Tom like, hey, bro, like, look, there's this opportunity. Hey, like, look, you'll like it, bro. Like, it's good, it's fun, the
Yeah.
interaction, the engagement, and then from there,
Yeah. From there, basically got the interview. Little did I know I was talking to the CEO when I got there. It was me and Dree was just sitting there. She was sitting there with me. And when he walked out, he said, "Oh, if I got anything to do with it, you hired." And I had to put two and two together, like, "Oh, the CEO just hired me. So I guess I ain't got to do the interview." And then from there, I actually got hired by another program under Small C's called Mother to Son program, as a facilitator to young Black men again. And we actually was already working with young Black men before all of that. We had our own group, BOW. All of y'all know what BOW is. Y'all know what BOW was. You know what I'm saying? So it was right down my lane. So, after doing that for a few years, because I stayed at Small C's for like 7 years, I was there. I moved up in the ranks. And yeah, so just, yeah, I'm gonna get into that too. So from there, I started off as a with Inua. I started off as a cultural consultant and moved up to right up under the supervisor. I forget what my position was at that point. But then with Mother to Son, I moved to assistant manager, which is funny because when I moved to assistant manager, I said, Nate, you need a part-time job. You know what I mean? And so he came back on board. So now, we was working at it together again. He was a facilitator. I was assistant manager. So yeah, so just having a friend that we kind of feed off each other when it comes to different opportunities, and because of that, I was able to do a lot of great things with Small C's because I even made my own position there as the data coordinator. Like they never had a data coordinator. I built the databases for them as well as managed them. I wrote the reports for the grants and everything. And this is something that I just knew how to do because I was an entrepreneur, and I was able to, and to see, thank God for the CEO. He allowed me to use my talents and my abilities. And that raised my salary by like 10 stacks a year. So, you know what I'm saying? So I was for it. You know what I mean? I was young, making good money, doing stuff that I like to do. But I wouldn't have had that opportunity if Nate never reached out to me to see if it was something that I wanted to do in the first place.
yeah. So, and I think what what is also what also then happens after that is in about 2006, I began to develop and begin to work on my own company. And as I began to work on my own company, one of the first people that I reached out to was actually Tom. Tom, my best friend, and a few other people. And what was interesting is that as a person starting a brand new organization that really had a lot of kind of development to happen, a lot of like engagement and involvement. When I approached Tom, and I approached my best friend, they were on board, and I was just like, really? And so I've had the pleasure, and I don't really talk about it because I truly believe that the things in which God has allowed me to accomplish and the things that God has allowed me to do. But I think honestly, and I don't say this much in spaces, but I think one of the greatest accomplishments that I'm most proud of is being able to literally provide a place of employment for my closest friends that honestly that I feel as though, for multiple years they've been able to manage and to maintain their households, their families, and things of that nature. People may look at it like, oh, like I got this X, Y, and Z, da da da. For me, I don't look at it more from a personal standpoint. I look at it from the blessing that I've been able to literally do some things like, for friends and families that I love. And I always tell people that none of the resources that I have is mine. It all belongs to God. And so there's been no problems with me, never going to be a problem because I remember. So one of the things that I told, one of the things that this is Yo, this is so funny. So I wanted to. So when we were in college, we came across this loan.
I already know you going.
Look, we came across this loan, and I didn't know. It was almost like the PPP loan for real.
It was though. Check.
Loan, it was like the college PPP loan. And we came across this loan. I seen it. I reached out to Tom like, yo, Tom, I filled out for this loan, and they sent me this big check, bro. Like, you gotta do it.
You should have seen my eyes. I filled it out a week later. Checked my bank account. Like, oh.
But one of the things that, but I remember having a conversation with God, even prior to any of that, and I've always told God that, God, if you ever bless me like with financial resources, that my goal and my job and my responsibility is to show you that these financial resources do not mean much to me. I want to be in a place that I'm able to kind of provide and be a giver to other people. And so I always look at having things as a resource to other people. And so in that, man, those were some good times when we got that low. Thankfully, we got it.
We got it.
We got it. Yeah, we was going out to eat with our friends, and like it was like 20 people at the table. We got it. We got the check. Everybody looking like
me and Nate would look at each other like, we're gonna do it. Let's do it. We got it.
We got this. We got this check. But thankfully, I mean, even with and I say all of that to say, with Tom coming back, and him work literally for the last 4 to 5 years, working for me, and I really I use different terms. So I know a lot of people like to kind of be modest, and I say working with me, because at the end of the day, the work that we do actually is in a space where we're serving other people. And so all of the people that actually work for me, I say that they're working with me. And so I've been blessed and very fortunate to be able to create the spaces and the opportunities of work based upon someone like Tom and the other individuals who are currently working with me as well. And so at the same time, him doing his own thing, he still has his landscaping.
So to get into that, so when I did, so everything kind of fell in place. It was 2016, wasn't it?
2016.
So when I left my other job, in my mind, I had a decent amount of money in the bank and everything like that. So I was like, okay, I got a good 2 months, to figure out what I'm going to do. And Nate actually had approached me about it, and I, organically, I was on board, organically. And at the same time, I had just talked to my wife, like, look, I'm gonna go buy some lawnmowers. I know how to cut some grass. I know how to make some money, so I did that as well. So when I came on board with Nate, within a year, he set it up to where I can grow my business, because he was actually my first client too. Matter of fact, he was my first client. He had a few places, and he really, got the income rolling for me, but he also made it to where we kind of set it up where I can take individuals and they can make a little bit of money, and I can grow my business at the same time and work it. So everything kind of like just fell in place. And I was able to do something different, which I kind of needed at the time. Was a little nervous, you know what I mean? Because it was something that I never did before, never thought I would do. But it worked. It worked. And with us feeding off each other, he probably knew where I was thinking. That's how I feel anyways, because like everything happened in a timely fashion. Yeah, this is cool, but yeah,
And the thing for me is, when it comes to creating opportunities, and I believe I know that's one of the responsibilities that I'm called to, is to create opportunities and create spaces for other people. And so I try to do that in almost all of the spaces that God allows me to kind of go into. And so one of the things for Tom was the real, and I say this honestly to every person that kind of comes into the space of working, that has worked for me. I'm never a person to say or have that expectation that you're going to be working with me for the rest of your life. I'm always like, how is it that we can kind of get to your next steps? If this is just a stepping stone Like, where is it that God is calling you to? Where is it that you feel like you're developing? And I'm not expecting, nor have I ever been upset for anyone that have worked with the work that we do, and then they stepped away or they moved into another space. I'm oftentimes like, how can I help that transition? Because I truly believe that that's a part of what God has called me to do with resources or whatever it is that I have. And so I just think it's just amazing that like our friendship and our relationship has continued, and it will continue, just because I just know that there's so much more that we're going to just end up doing together. And so it's just been phenomenal just to see the growth. It's been phenomenal to even just see the growth from entrepreneurship even to family.
Yeah.
And I would say for me, if I'm most excited about anything when it comes to Tom, is honestly, and he might sometimes think like I just say it just to say it, but like to see his dynamic of family really is a true inspiration to me, because like I was literally there in the beginning.
Man, yo, where was we at? But what was it? What was the wing place we used to meet at? Was it? It wasn't Buffalo. It was the other one. Quaker Steak.
Quaker Steak and Lube
in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So literally from the beginning of their like from their relationship when they first started talking, and to their marriage. And
to the engagement. You
forgot the engagement.
You was there with
I was there on their engagement. Look, they called me like 10 minutes, like, bro, I'm about to do it. I'm like, right now? Wasn't it like the 4th of July?
Yeah,
4th of July, like, I'm about to do it right now. I'm like, right now? You about to do it? Y'all just been talking for 2 weeks. Y'all,
6 months. 6 months.
Y'all been talking 2 weeks. Did you try to put a ring on it? I see what you try to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so those things, and then after that, it kind of, it shifted into them being married, and then just kind of the journey of it.
All them kids.
Yeah,
all them kids.
Back to back. You see why he only did 6 months. He was trying to get a head start. But they have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful family. And one of the things that I really admire about it is the fact, knowing how we grew up in church, of how supportive you are to your family and how engaged you are with them. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So yeah, man. So what's good? Like what's as far as entrepreneurial like relationships, like what have you seen? Like what have you noticed? Because we're not the only ones that you kind of have like those relationships with, but like what are some like challenges that you see with friendships and entrepreneurial relationships?
I mean, really, it just goes back to boundaries. You know what I mean? Because obviously, a friendship and a partnership is different, especially if you're working on something together, or if you're working for somebody or whatever. You just got to know your role. You know what I mean? I think that's where a lot of friendship, because I've actually seen family fall out over business opportunities. And it always led back to the boundaries and everybody. Oh, well, we're friends. We're family. So maybe I can do this, and he's not gonna say nothing. She's not gonna say nothing. Where at the end of the day, this is a partnership, and yes, we are family, but at the same time, we both got resources on this.
Right.
You know what I mean? So to me, the main thing that I've seen is boundaries, and I think that's something that I've always been good with, because I try to always put my mind into place. Okay, yeah, we're friends. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I still have a job to do. And I don't want to see nothing happen to something that he's created because of me. You know what I mean? So just being in that space of mind to be understanding, and also at the same time, why would I put one of my friends in a position of failure when they're counting on me to help them succeed? So for me personally, I try to keep that in the back of my head at all times when I'm working with family or friends. You know what I mean? And at the same time, I also cautious because of that, because if I look at somebody to do something with and I just don't get that vibe back, then 9 times out of 10 I'm not going to do it, because my time is valuable and it's precious, especially with having kids and working a lot. because I work a full-time job and I have my business, and then I coach.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm busy 7 days a week most of the time. So if I'm really putting some time and effort into it, I will want the same for the other person. And if I don't feel like I'm going to get that, then that's something I'm probably not going to do. And I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong. You know what I mean? They want to give that person a chance. Oh, well, let me give them a chance. That's not always a smart idea. You know what I mean? And I get it, but this is business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I will say that, like, I've been really blessed to have friends and family that have been very, very supportive and very loyal and very mindful of their work ethic, like very, very hard work ethic, where I've honestly had both sides of the coins, where I've had friends and family that were not hard work, didn't really kind of provide hard work ethic because of the family relationship, or friends that just felt like, all right, because, I know you, I'm comfortable with you, it's cool for me to come late. It's cool for me to kind of not come at all. It's cool for me to do X, Y, and Z. And so I've been very blessed when it comes to, Tom, and even your relationship, where, if Tom is going to be late, he's sending out a text message, saying, hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late, or giving a call saying, hey, X, Y, and Z. Whereas someone else might just show up late, like, forget what you got going on, and X, Y, and Z. And so I think to me, one of the hardest and challenging things is really finding people who care about what you care about to the same capacity.
Yeah, and that's kind of the hard part, like even with the landscaping, because obviously if you know landscaping, it's a physical job, and you can't be lazy. You have to be a hard worker. Like, it's not something that you just sitting at a desk and stuff. And it's something that I can take to the next level, but the amount of time and effort I'll have to do right now, I just like it where it is, because I gotta find somebody like me that I can count on to get things done even when I'm not there. And that's the hard part. And turnovers is crazy with that, because people do it for a few months, but like, you know what, I'm good.
It's labor intensive.
Yeah, it's labor intensive. Even though the compensation is good, you know what I mean? A lot of people just don't. Landscaping, it's not for everybody.
It's not, and the quality of it isn't for everybody.
Yes,
as well.
The quality, you gotta have. You ain't just cutting grass. Your lines got to be straight. The hedges got to be clipped right. It's an art to it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. And even for me, that's how I knew, like, all right, cool. Because I try to be like a perfectionist when I'm doing things. Yeah. And so when I realized, like, man, these lines is not straight, man. Like, these lines ain't all the way straight. And so it's just like, all right, where do you want me to fit in? Because at the end of the day, in his graciousness, he would, be very mindful of, like, not trying to like put me down or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, I could cut grass, but it was just like to the quality in which he was used to providing. That's not what I was able to provide during those times. Like, I'm like, look, you want me to blow? I'll blow the grass.
I didn't see worse. I didn't see people. I'm talking about like, I'm like, what is you doing though? You know what I mean? But yeah, so it's definitely finding the people
and
to help to make sure to finding the people to help carry out the vision.
And and I think for me, it's always like, how do you allow people to see themselves within the vision, right? And that's in most places. Every opportunity isn't like that, right? Yeah. Like, sometimes it just is what it is. Like, this is the vision, this is what has to get done. But when you're building something and you're creating something, and that's why a lot of times my questions are like to people when they come, I have people come to me often like, how can I help you do what you're doing? How can I help you? And oftentimes my first question is, what is it that you're interested in doing? Because if I tell you what I need, you're not probably going to like it in 2 weeks, right? Like, I might be like, you know what? I'm tired of doing this accounting stuff. I need you to count this stuff.
You're going to put them where you need them at,
where I need them,
where they see themselves at.
Right. So what are you purposed and what are you called to do? Yeah. And I think that goes over into business with your skill sets. And I also believe that goes over into the church aspect as well.
As well as marriage.
Marriage, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Where you see yourself.
Say more about that. Say more about marriage, because I think wifey's on here too. You know what I mean?
She, yeah. You know, we gotta. Our family's very dynamic. I think. Well, I know my family's very dynamic. You know, I got athletes, I got singers, I got rugrats, everything. You know, but when I say that comes into play in a lot of different ways. For one, you know what I mean? Where do I see myself in the house? I like to cook. That's where my piece is. You know what I mean? My wife, she has things that she likes to do. That's what her piece is. Will she do sometimes things that I deem necessary? No, because my mindset is what needs to get done. You know what I mean? But at the same time, recently, and we've been married for a good minute. Recently, understanding.
How long? What's a good minute?
Like 11 going on 12.
Yeah,
something like that.
Bro. Know these answers to read.
But just giving her being able to let her see where she fits in, and giving her that room to do that. You know what I mean? Even if I disagree with it, right. Because, you know, as a head of household, I'm focused on the money. I'm focused on the kids, making sure I'm overseeing stuff, right, which I don't necessarily need to oversee, because she has her own system. You know what I mean? And in any type of partnership, it's the same thing. You know, as far as where people, you know, making sure that people are where they fit in, where they see themselves.
So what you're saying is, because in a social norm, the social norm would say that a woman, she needs to know how to cook.
Yeah.
Right. But because you yourself, you like to cook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't mind. Like, that's not a give or, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a deal breaker within the scenario.
No, that's part of normal life for me. You know what I mean? That's part of what I do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's kind of like literally figuring out where you, as we stated, like where you fit in within the context of relationship.
Exactly.
Where you fit in teamwork, where you fit in partnerships, in development, because we sometimes want to, one of the things that I shared with my mom, and I think I said it on last week's segment, was the fact that my mom, as a mother, and as her and my father, they created independent men.
Yeah. Like,
our parents created us to be like independent. So we know how to cook.
Yeah.
We know how to clean. We know how to wash our clothes. Like, we know how to do all of those things that oftentimes are given to like a woman.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there thinking about them sleepovers. Them sleepovers was crazy.
It's crazy.
Had Bill in there cooking breakfast.
Look,
everything. Like, I remember those sleepovers.
And so it's like those roles, things like when you're looking for relationship, or you're wanting relationship, or you're wanting to build certain things, it's like, no, I don't necessarily need you to cook. Yeah. Right. Like, if that's something that you love to do, and that's something I enjoy cooking as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Friends and family
night? Yeah, friends and family night at church.
We used to have it booming.
Look, friends and family night at church, we used to kind of like, you know, that we used to have like different countries and things like that. And, you know, even to this day, like, there's certain food items that like people from the church will reach out to me and say, hey, can you cook this, or can you make this X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I enjoy that. And so I think it's important, like, knowing where you fit in. And I think that's even for us, where we have been a blessing, I believe, to each other, where I've learned where you fit in, and there's multiple places where like you fit in, and you've even, you know, likewise reached out to me on certain things like, hey bro, I'm doing this. Can you help me? Can you support me? Can you do you feel like you'll be able to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And from that, it was never like, likewise, like, you felt like you didn't want to take advantage of the opportunity.
Exactly.
And I always felt like I want to make sure that he never feels, or they never felt like I'm taking advantage of them.
Exactly.
And so whatever it is that we need to kind of do as a, you know, as entrepreneurs, and I'm huge on that. Like, I'm huge on like a few things. And, you know, one of the things is I'm huge on not owing anybody. Like, I'm like, I don't never want anyone to think that I am intentionally or just ever just trying to take advantage of them. So there would be times where I would take on a heavy load, and a large part of that was saying to anyone, and even to show the staff and to show the team that I'm not asking you to do anything that I'm not doing.
And that's one of the conversations that we had even before, like, still being with Small Seeds, about the boss mentality. Are you the one pulling, or are you the one whipping? You know what I mean? And that's something that, like, we both always agreed on. Like, as the person in charge, I'm gonna show you. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do more than you on purpose. You know what I mean? To let you know that I'm not here to use you. You know what I mean? And and that's one thing that I'm big on. I'm big on treating my employees or whoever's working for me with the utmost respect, because I feel like, they always say the customer's right, but I tend to disagree with that. I rather support and stand behind my employee, because obviously I hired you. So I'm going to put I'm going to put trust in you, and I'm going to go to bat for you. As long as we have open communication, I'm going to go to bat for you. If I lose a customer because of that, oh well, especially if you're a sound employee, because people that hire people know that it costs more to get a new employee than it does to keep one, to retain one. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things I'm big on, is treating people with respect and dignity, and making sure that I stand. Because another thing that I learned, being in positions of leadership, is when you treat the people that are working with you, even if they're under your title or whatever, or you're in charge of them, if you treat them with the utmost respect, they're going to give 120,000%, because they love what they do and they know that you treat them with respect. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things, and one of the reasons why I try to approach things in that manner.
Yeah. So when you transitioned, like, what was your ultimate goal from transitioning into entrepreneurship? Because you've always kind of had like an entrepreneur kind of.
So from a young age, I don't know, like, where the mentality came from, be honest with you. Because like I said, I started in 4th grade. And it's just something that was a part of me. But Ed, what's the question again? I'm sitting there thinking.
So the question was, like, as far as like entrepreneurship, like when like what was the premise of it?
Okay.
Like, what was
why?
Yeah.
Okay, why? The why for me was, even from a young age, I used to draw diagrams with one circle, and then lines with circles, with lines with circles. And I always wanted to have multiple streams of income, and that was just it. You know what I mean? Because I know how important it is to have backup plans and stuff of that nature. If I get fired today, I still have income coming in. So it's not that it's a big deal, but at the same time, it gives me room to move around.
Right.
And also with me having all these kids, you know what I'm saying? They like to do things, and I want them to be able to do them.
Right.
So, okay, I get a salary, but I got this money too. Like I was saying, my landscaping money is for savings and fun, or for sports and stuff of that nature. My son was just on the travel team, this past year, and I probably put like $5,000 in that, but I had it, and that's what it was for. So my son got to travel to different states and play different teams and people that he would never play before if we didn't have that type of money to do that.
That exposure.
Yeah, the exposure. You know what I mean? My kids, when they run track, they got a chance to go up to Ohio to do AAU because we didn't have a track meet that week. And I'm like, okay, then we go get a hotel. Let's go. My son went up there and took a gold. You know what I'm saying? But he played against a whole bunch of kids that he never played against and still won, to show himself that, oh, okay, so I'm not just good with these group of dudes. I actually went and played a whole nother group of dudes and won again. Yeah. You know what I mean? So just to have multiple streams of income, because there's other things that I want to do. You know what I'm saying? And I need money to fuel that. Because obviously landscaping ain't the end all to be all. There's some things that I want to do in the near future, but the landscaping money is going to fuel that. And then when I get up and running, both of them incomes is going to fuel the next vision that I have. Just having a multiple streams of income. And it also allows me to take my kids and allow them to make money. So I have something that's making money, and because it's mine, my son, I just had to borrow $60 from my son. He pulled out his wallet, all this money. He said, "When you gonna pay me back?" I started to be like, you pay me rent. Like, what you talking about? my daughter, all my kids, and I'm teaching them finances because of that. Make sure you always know how much money you have and stuff to that nature. So just the multiple. So the main thing is just having multiple streams of income, so that if one thing go wrong, everything's not ruined.
Yeah, that's dope because growing up, yeah, like that was the thing. Like I think one of my desires was like not to be able to need to ask anyone for anything, right? Like I remember like seeing like my parents, us struggling like as a family, but I never seen and never understood like how other families were able to kind of just like really enjoy life.
Yeah.
Right. It was just like they going on trips and all we doing is going to church. And I'm just like,
our family vacations was a council.
Yeah, like family vacations was like church stuff. And I'm just like, nah, like the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And so the exposure that I think right now that we're able to provide to like our children and to our family is just another nuance of God's, like the fullness of God that oftentimes is not talked about and shared about, even within the context of like how we were developed and reared spiritually. And so, that was one of the dynamics. I'm just like, I want to be able to do that. And then also, as I would read the scripture and as I would read and understand like stewardship, one of the things, and this is not to kind of, it oftentimes go that way because what's in you comes out. And so I begin to kind of talk about kind of scriptures and things of that nature. And one of the things that when you look at the Old Testament, one of the things that it oftentimes talked about was to possess the land. Understand that in the Old Testament, land was actually what's created their wealth. And so the more land that you had was the wealthier that you, even like the children of Israel, when they transition from Moses and they go in promised land, it is the land. It was like, I'm going to show you. And so for me, it was just like, okay, why aren't we talking about or even developing, and even within the church realm, why don't we have these things? Why don't we have this mindset of like stewardship? Why don't we have the mindset of creating, developing, and opportunities for people? And honestly, a lot of the entrepreneurial ideas would be sometimes from my frustration sitting in spaces like churches and seeing, wow, there's a lot of money that's coming through church. There's a lot of opportunities. And if we would just do X, Y, and Z, how much more effective could we be? That the name of God can be even greater from the people. You know what I mean? Like I think of the church. I think of our church when Bishop was there and we had like everybody that was there that was popping. Like everybody was popping. We had Dion, Jesselina, like everybody that was just doing stuff.
Yeah, our whole church was popping. The whole, even the kids.
All the kids, everybody.
We go to the council and they be scared of us. Like, oh, they about to win the count. They about to win.
Look, we won the spelling bees. The count. We won the what was those things? Your mom did the little art, the little march.
Plays.
The plays, all of that stuff. Because we just had so much talent that was in our church. Like there was just so many talented people and so many people that were full. And right now, what I'm seeing, shout out to Sister Jesselina. She just did something as it relates to her nursing and like even going to a doctor, like the context of like becoming a doctor. And in our minds, those were like small things because it was like everything like was about church. Mm-hmm. And so people don't know how excited I become when I see us from that age range, like doing things that is literally outside of the norm for us. Yeah, it excites me. Like when I see like saints traveling, like with their skirts on, I be excited because I still want you to change the skirt. But anyway, as long as you're going somewhere, like you in the sun with the skirt, like
Vegas.
Okay, like Vegas.
Go to Vegas.
But I'm like, for me, I'm just excited that you're expanding your thinking and expanding your just ability to see the fullness of God.
Yeah, and it came so. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna speak on a hardship as an entrepreneur. I don't know, to just cross my mind real quick. So from being young and pretty successful, what I'm saying, in my term success, not rich and nothing like that, but just accomplishing things. I went through a time span where I was climbing that hill and I plateaued for about 5-6 years, where I wasn't doing nothing, accomplishing anything. You know what I mean? And I that really took me in depression. 'Cause I'm like, man, I'm used to doing all this stuff and I ain't doing nothing right now. You know what I mean? So it took that plateau, and God helped me understand it. You know what I mean? What I needed out of that plateau. You went up, so and the way that he kind of explained, I was just sitting there thinking, the way that he gave it to me was, you've been doing so much. Now I need you to reflect on it and learn from it so I can take you up higher. You know what I mean? So in the last few years, I kind of been sitting back and to that nature to try to respark that the entrepreneurship in me. You know what I mean? Because I was real hyped on it when I was younger, like on it. Every day I was thinking something new. Let me write this down. And then I just like, I don't feel like doing nothing. You know what I mean? But I took the time in especially the last like 2 or 3 years, and I think we've had this conversation a couple times, just to write things down and to put things into perspective. Because and people always ask me, what what is my talent? My kids always ask me because I ask them the same thing. You know what I mean? For reasons. You know what I mean? But I always say I don't really know. But one of the things that God kind of put on me was the ability to create. You know what I mean? And I never really walked in it all like that. But I'm starting to learn and understand it, and that's why I'm like, man, I can't be in the shadows no more. You know what I mean? God has given me an ability to do something, and the ability that He gave me requires, you know what I mean, you to be somewhere where people can see. You know what I mean? But yeah, just one of the hardships is hitting plateaus, and I guess that's a question that, like, what do you feel is a hardship or something that makes it difficult to be an entrepreneur?
So, so the hardship for me, there's a lot. There's a lot of
Well, I know
hardship.
there's a lot.
Yeah, there's
but,
a lot.
what's like one of the main ones, or one of the ones that just stick out the most?
I think one of the hardships is being able to navigate people, and while doing entrepreneurship. One of the things is that when I first started the business, um, and you would know this, a lot of people didn't know, and I was very intentional about not allowing people to know that I started a business, because of the perceptions of people. The perceptions of people are, if you have a business, then the first day you're like, you got money.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what people still don't know to this day, the amount of resources that go out to have and to do what it is that it is attempting to do versus what they see.
Yeah.
And so now I'm needing to be cautious and careful about what that looks like, because in people's mind, you got it, you got it, you got it, not knowing that probably the amount of insurance that for all of the things that we are insured under is probably the amount of somebody's salary.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yes.
so for me, it's really dealing with reality that people who are not entrepreneurs, when you think of that, all they think of money. All they think of is
you
money.
got all this money coming in,
and they don't think of all of the bills and all of the other expenditures that you have to kind of maintain. For the first 2 years of the business, I took absolutely nothing. Right. So I would wait, make sure that everyone else is paid, everyone else is kind of doing these things, because what I wanted to do was kind of set and begin to create a space where if something was to happen in the next 2 years, that there was some resources there.
Yep.
I'm blessed because one of the reasons why I'm so blessed is because, number one, within that, God has allowed me to become debt free. I've been debt free the last 4 years. In addition to that, being able to create opportunities within that to say, listen, all right, God, like I want to create spaces where I don't need necessarily the money, right? Like I don't need to be, I'm not the cars, I'm not trying to live in the biggest of the house. All right, God, like if this happens, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's the hardest thing, still being able to be level-headed with all of the things that I know that God is still calling me to create, still with the mindset of people thinking like, someone said the other day, they was like, yeah, you don't need that. And I was just like, why do y'all think I don't be needing stuff?
Look, I didn't have somebody working with me, and I'm like, all right, go ahead and do that. I'll be back. And then like, well, I did all the work, so I should get no, this is mine. What you talking about? You know, they want to get paid the same as me, but I'm like, bro, you don't understand. One of these weed whackers costs almost $400. My lawnmowers, I got 3 of them. You know, I got 2. I just bought a new weed whacker. You know what I'm saying? Gas, you know, all of this stuff. But you ain't, all you doing is showing up and helping. And I appreciate it, but you got to understand that everything that goes into it, you know what I mean? Okay, it might be bringing in, but there's money going out too. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, I get that, because I look at it like,
so this person asked to talk about stewardship. Can we touch more on stewardship? Stewardship. Yeah, you go ahead and jump on stewardship, and then I'll give my spill.
You go first.
Okay. So stewardship, I believe, God. How do we do it? Okay, so here we go. Yeah. I got to do it the way that I know how, right? So in the scripture, God gives there's a story a story in the Bible where God gives 3 men 3 different talents.
Yeah,
right. He gives one, he gives another 3, another 5. And what happens with it? The one that had 1, he takes it and he hides it. The one that had 2 and 5, they go and they multiply it. And the problem with stewardship is knowing what to do with what God has given you. And that can be from the little bit that God has given you into the large amount that God has given you. That's why the scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
Right. And so stewardship, there has to be the understanding of the level of the things that you have. And what can I, like any space that you give me. And that's why, like, I've been doing some consulting here lately, and people ask me to come into their spaces and they say, Nate, what do you see in this space? Yeah. Because for me, in every space that I go into, I feel like you should maximize that space. Like the space that we're sitting in right now you see it as a recording studio, right? We have cameras set up, X, Y, and Z. It's a recording studio. However, there's people that have banquets down here. There's people that have meetings in the same space. There's people that have all of these different dynamics in the same space. Why? Because we've created it as a flex space. And so the stewardship of this space is saying what and how can I maximize what God has given me? And I think that's the challenge with many of us, is that we want so much and have not maximized the little that's in your hand.
Yeah. So to me, stewardship is a place of accountability. So for me, you know, I do like I said, I do a lot of stuff I just don't talk about, or you know, because I'm not really in the forefront. But for me, it's more of my knowledge, you know, that God has given me in being an entrepreneur, as well as the studying, because I used to study a lot entrepreneurship when I was in college. I used to study. So because of that, I use my knowledge. You know, I was able to go into a nonprofit and help them to elevate. You know, they didn't have debit card, they didn't have a website, they didn't have this or that. You know what I mean? And just being able to use my knowledge to help them to get to a place where things are easier for them to do different things. And it's always been like that with me. You know, so for me, what, you know, the stewardship that I involve myself in is more on an intellectual level, where if I have friends that need a business plan, they need a template, I've created them. So I'll give it to them with no problem because I want to see them succeed. You know what I mean? So that's why I say it's a level, it's a place of accountability because you have something. If you hold on to it, you know, it's not going to multiply. You know what I mean? How can you see it multiply when you can help somebody else that can help somebody else that can help somebody else, you know, in that realm? So with me being able to lend people knowledge or give them knowledge or help them to do this or in any capacity, you know what I mean? To me, that helps me to grow because in the same breath as I'm helping them, I'm helping myself because I might come across something that I didn't realize because I'm helping them. Now I realize it and now I can go back and do something different with it and grow it. And things of that nature. So to me, and some of this stuff, like I feel like for us is so organic because of how we was brought up. Because even when we was in like the early years of college, like first, second year of college, we were doing things. I was doing things not knowing that it was stewardship. You know what I mean? And now that I'm sitting here thinking back on it, because of how we was raised, just for me, I feel like it just came organically, and just and once it was understood, you know what I mean. It didn't need to be explained. Like this is what we're supposed to be doing.
And I also think it's not all of it was how we were raised. It was what we didn't want our outcome to be. You know what I mean? Because it was just like, man, like these weren't things that our parents showed us or told us in X, Y, and Z. When it came to like ownership, I remember when I purchased my first home, right? And I'm just like, I don't know anything about this process. Like, I don't know anything what to do, what to look for. And it was to the point where I was frustrated with with my realtor because I'm just like, oh, they're trying to get over on me. Because in my mind, one of the contexts was like, people try to get over on you in transactions and big transactions like this. Definitely. And so like I'm reading the fine tooth, like everything, like what's in the blueprint. I'm sitting there getting frustrated. And I think like, all right, God, like how do we create space that our children, and my hope, man, when you talk about stewardship, one of the things that we do not talk about, when it comes to not just in the Black community, but even in the church realm, is one of the commandments that was left for us. One of the commandments was the fact that we were to leave an inheritance for our children. And that's where the blessing comes from. And so when we talk about like the white community, unfortunately, because of, their setup was different, and because they may have had some opportunities that we may not have, but that's one of the main reasons, and one of my desires is so that my daughter does not have to, my hope and my prayer is that she doesn't have to take out college loans when she goes to college, that the resources that God blesses me and her mother with now is able to provide for her to not be in debt because she needs education.
And I have a story for that, and that really helped me to understand that. So, my roommate came from a, nice home and all that stuff. So one time I went to visit them and we went to his friend's house. First time I ever seen a bridge in the house, bro. I had to get myself together because I'm like, I ain't never been in a house like this, but his friend was our age. No, he's older. Actually, he was out of college. He was an accountant, still living at home. We was talking and he said, I got about $60,000 in the bank because his parents can make him pay nothing. It's like his setup was so crazy. I'm like, yo, I wish, so because of that, and because of other things, that's part of the other reason why I want to have these multiple streams of income, because I plan on using that to turn it over. You know what I mean? Whatever I have, I want to give something to my kids that's going to continue to give. You know what I mean? It's one thing to give them something. Oh, this is your dad's old hat or this. No, I want to give you a business. I want to give you some property. I want to give you something that'll help your life start off debt free and things of that nature. And I teach my kids is 10 and under, and I teach them about credit. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So just not only giving them wealth of knowledge.
We got to do that here. Like we really got to start having like little classes and little segments here where we're asking you to bring your young your kids here and we begin to talk about debt, and
Yes,
we begin to talk about finances and wealth,
different type of bank
and
account, all of that.
all of these different dynamics, because one of the things is we're losing the there's a disadvantage with our children because they're not getting this knowledge. Not that we're masters at this
Not
at
at
all.
all. Yeah.
We're still finding out how to kind of create this dynamic, but what it is that we do know, we can share and we can teach,
Yeah.
and kind of give to others. And you're absolutely right. Like I want for my daughter and for my family not to worry about certain things if and when God takes me away. You know,
Yes.
like that should not be the burden. And the other important thing that I'm asking God to help me to do with all of the things that He's allowing me to do is to create succession. One of the things that I feel like we do not do well as a culture is to create succession, meaning that if you start something and it starts with you and it ends with you. So that if you created a business, your child or your family, no one in there knows how to do what it was that you were doing, and therefore that thing just dies.
Yes. So one of the models that I use for this, some people may or may not agree with me, is the Johnson & Johnson family. They actually send their kids and their relatives to school for positions that they need. So when they come into the family business, they know what they're doing, and it keeps the business running. You know what I mean? So that's also something that I want to do. You know what I mean? So that's why I ask my kids all the time, what do you think you see yourself doing? Because I want to be able to start businesses for them that they can take over and keep it going. And that's why the whole multiple streams of income thing, that's where it came into for me. You know what I mean? A long time ago, is to be able to give them something, but also in a sense teaching them how to run it. So if something happened to me, they don't have to just sell it off because they don't know what to do with it. And now you don't have that income no more. You might get that lump sum check, you know what I'm saying? But you don't got something that's continually to build that wealth, because that's what wealth is, something that's continuous.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
So she said to give them some breathing room. Yep, they can have some breathing room.
Oh
just
yeah,
a
definitely.
little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think I look at breathing room like this. So one of the most so my daughter, one day we were having a conversation, and what she said to me was, Dad, like whenever I'm finished with school, I'm gonna take over all of your stuff. And I was just like, Number one, it made me very proud because it was just like, wow, like she sees something that she could in her own mind see herself kind of taking over by her choice, and with her own will, whatever. And then I said to her very carefully, I said, listen, I don't want you to do what it is that I'm doing because I'm doing it. Like, I want you to do it because, like, if this is what you're called to do, or this is something that you're interested in doing, I'm never going to make you say, like, oh, you're the one next in line. However, I will say this. There are times where it is that we have to set up our children regardless if they like it or not. And so she may not, and I don't know what the future holds, because I'm under the auspices that nothing that God has given me is mine. So tomorrow, God can wake me up and say, you know what? Give this to Tom. And I will gladly give it to Tom, because my faith is set up as such that I believe that what God has for me next is just as good as what he's already done. And so, like, that's just how I am. Like, I'm not a possessor of anything that belongs to God, because it's God. But if it's something that, as it relates to things that God has allowed me to build, I don't want my daughter or my family, my future children, whatever that may look like, for them to feel like that they are stuck into something.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, it's not that they even have to take it over per se. They can have enough understanding and knowledge to pay somebody to run it.
That's it.
You know what I mean? So I let my kids experiment with anything they want to experiment with, whether it's sports, whether it's whatever. I ask them all the time, is there any clubs you want to join? My daughter, I paid all this money for violin, and she ain't touching. And she ain't touching.
No, man, these
You know what I
kids.
mean? So it's just things like that. So yeah, I agree with you. You got to give them room, but at the same time, you have to train them in a way or build them up in a way that, okay, one day, God forbid, but daddy ain't gonna be here. So when it is my time, I need you to understand how to deal with this.
So we still have the responsibility as parents to
Yes.
lead our children. And so one of the things with Naira has been given so many opportunities, right? She's been blessed. I mean, beyond blessed. I mean, she's been, have been provided scholarships for gymnastics and for dance and piano, and she played basketball, and she did all of these things. And so, and nowadays, even to this day, last week she wanted to be a makeup artist. She was talking about she is starting a business to she's gonna be doing makeup. And I was just like, here we go. Then the week before that, she's gonna be a fashion person. All right, here we go. Like, I'm like, all right, so I'm at the point where it's just like, I need you to sit down, get off of YouTube and TikTok, and you write down your ideas so that we can begin at a young age to begin to kind of like talk to these things, because I'm an entrepreneur, right? And so with being an entrepreneur, I know what that looks like. And with that, one of the things that I told her was at the time she was playing piano. And I said, I don't care what other activities that you do, you're going to continue to play piano if you like it or not.
Consistency.
Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, I feel like one of the challenges for people with opportunity is the fact that we start things and we never finish them. And so there has to be a balance where there are some things that are systematic and consistent in your life. Exactly. And so the emphasis for the piano was the fact that she oftentimes talks about how she likes to sing, how she likes to dance, how she wants to go into acting school, all of those things. Yeah. And I said, so listen, so if you like to sing, you like to dance, you want to go into acting school, if you go on an audition, they're going to ask you your skill set. If you get on there and you start playing the piano in all these different ways, that's going to set you above the other people. Mm-hmm. So you got to think of things that are going to set you above. You got to find ways that are going to set you above spaces that you don't even know, even if it's in the future sense. Yeah, you playing right now may seem like, oh, this is boring, and this is, I don't even like it, but the consistency is down the line is going to help you to set yourself in a space that is going to just elevate you.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Because my daughter, like from a young age, she said she want to be an architect or whatever. And I'm like, here, build daddy a house, but she would draw and get frustrated because she couldn't draw all that well. But for Christmas, for birthdays, for just because we buy her everything art, paint, canvases, and all of these things. And I told her, I said, baby, you frustrated now because you're just learning. Mm-hmm. But I said, the more you practice, the better you're going to get. And I just kept reiterating that to her. And I said, you have to be consistent in what you're doing so you can get better. And now she draws like all her free time. That's all she does. And she's getting better. She's learning shading now. And I didn't even know it. I'm like, what you doing? Let me see. Oh, okay. And the same thing with my son. You know what I mean? My son right now, his mindset is just football right now. And my son is very smart. If I'm not mistaken, he's like a 4.0 right now, something like that. So he's very academic as well. But right now, football. And I said, son, and when I say I say it to all my kids, but I say it to him more because he's in a physical, he's doing something physically. And I said, son, in order to be the best, you have to work the hardest and the most consistent, So I gave him a regiment to do at night. It's like 50 push-ups, 3 sets of 50 push-ups, 3 sets of 20 sit-ups, and 3 sets of lunges each leg. That's nothing. He can do actually 100 push-ups at one time, but we ain't gonna get into that. So I want y'all sitting there like, y'all abusing him. No, I'm not. But I don't make him do it. You know what I mean? But the next day, I'm like, did you do your stuff last night? No. I'm like, well, how are you gonna get better if you can't even do that consistently? You know what I mean? And so he's learning. There's times where I walk past his room at night and
Mhm.
And I keep moving. I don't say nothing to him or nothing because I want him to understand that consistency is normal. Well, it's not. It's not. It's normal. It's. I don't want to say it's normal because some people are like, well, nah, it's not normal for everybody, but you want to make it normal. You know what I mean?
Consistency is a healthy habit.
It's a healthy habit. That's where I'm. Yes.
And so I do that also. Very similar. I have a lot of discussions with Naira about being consistent, because it's like at the end of the day, for the things that you want, and this is even going back to entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship, people don't understand
Consistency, you gotta
like
have
the consistency, the vigor. People don't understand that there are nights, even now, there's nights where I don't go to sleep, and then the next day I'm performing as if I slept 8 hours a night.
Yes.
Because there was work that I need to do, and this
Yes.
is not to feel bad at all. I don't feel bad for anything. This is the lot that God has given me, and I'm blessed to do whatever it is that God has called me to do. It's from the fact that I'm doing entrepreneurial stuff, and then I'm in ministry as well. So I'm up, making sure that I'm in time in my word, and I'm studying. Then my own personal life, I'm trying to, enjoy, and then, all of those different things. And so I don't. There's a balance, but there's certain things that has to be consistent. And for children, I believe one of the best things that you can do, and if we really want to be honest, cultural wise, that's one of the biggest traumatic changes for our children, because in our culture, there's always change. There's always turnover. Yes. Father's not there. Sometimes mom's not there. Addiction, moving from house to house, moving from space to space, X, Y, and Z. And so there is this need for the understanding of consistency.
Yes, because not just we was just talking about this yesterday in one of the classes with my job, where things become normal because it's always happening, even though it's not normal. And when it happens, it's like, okay, that happens every day, but somebody from the outside like, yo, that's not normal. Well, I mean, I've been dealing with this all my life, so it's normal. You know what I mean? And what we were talking about, just off topic just a little bit, was domestic violence. And he said, I seen it from my grandma. She was getting beat up, my mom. So it was normal to me. So when I got grown, I thought it was normal. I thought that's what you were supposed to do. But it's the same, and it goes back to building habits. And that's one of the things that I don't think us as a community do. Because everything is just always going, every movement. There's no healthy habits.
Grinding.
Exactly.
Grinding.
Like, okay, no bedtime. There's no this. There's no that. Eat when you want to. Do like that. You know what I mean? Instead of setting these. And it took me a long time to break some habits because I didn't realize that they weren't healthy habits. And at the same time, I'm grown. So you know what I mean? You get stuck in your way like old people. But with my kids, and I'm learning, and I'm still, So for me, when as far as breaking unhealthy habits, I have to think about it as I'm doing what I'm doing, and I have to stop myself, or whatever it is that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be doing it like this. I need to, But for my kids, I try to instill in them healthy habits, whether it's giving them, praise, affirmations, and everything. And I'll never forget. And this is how I knew it was working. I'll never forget. I think I told you this. So the one night, because like I try to do it every night. It don't happen though, and that's one of the healthy habits I'm trying to build within myself as a parent. But I went to my son's room. I had just got finished talking to my youngest, like, baby, you're so beautiful. You're a leader because you don't let nobody tell you nothing, and you ain't gonna believe, including me. And I'm like, that's a problem, but we gonna work on it. I did it with my oldest, and then I went to my son's room, like, son, you're awesome. And before I could say anything else, he said, no, Dad, you're awesome. I said, I had to walk out, like, I had to get myself together because he regurgitated something that I've been feeding him. You know what I mean? To see a child regurgitate something that you've been trying to instill in them, that feels good by itself. But when you ain't expecting it, it'll choke you up. You know,
because those are things that we need, and sometimes those are some of the things that we lack throughout our journey.
Yes.
And so I think we're trying to do our best to be intentional about building up. I was just having a conversation just yesterday. It was a good conversation as it relates to just Naira. And at the end of the day, it was like, the children right now, they're dealing with so much. And even though like there's certain things that I'm a joker, like I'm ripping, like I rip on that era. I'm going to talk about her. I'm going to do all of these things. But more importantly for me, it's making sure that I'm building her up.
Exactly.
And there's certain things that I don't want to say ever to her because I don't want that to be in her subconscious that he might really think that.
Yeah.
Like he might really think that this is what, whatever. And so I think the importance of knowing, the importance to knowing of how to kind of build our children, and that's stewardship.
It's stewardship. It's not only stewardship, but it does go back into the entrepreneurship as well. Because the when you're an entrepreneur, you have a different mindset. You know what I mean? And you're constantly trying to train your child up in the way that should go. Right. And we as parents and as adults, we've been adults for a while now. You know what I mean? We ain't the grown-ups of the grown, but we'd have been around the block a few times. You know what I mean? We understand what it is that we lacked coming up. And as entrepreneurs and as dads, and just understanding that we want it's that mindset that, okay, you can do this and a third, but there's keys to it, whether it's consistency, whether it's this or whether it's that. And that's just how a lot of entrepreneurs think. Now, some be overbearing on their kids, like you're going to do that, you're going to do that. But, it's having a balance, going back to that. It's just having a balance and being there, because I don't know how we got on our kids. I think it was the question or whatever. Yeah.
But listen, we're going to jump out of the kids, and we're about to wrap this up because we've been talking. And but one of the things that I want to throw out to you guys is next week we're going to have our first woman's discussion. And so if you are a lady who is interested in coming to be a part of this open discussion, is going to be live. And some of you guys are on the feed now that you've asked, you asked to kind of be a part of just kind of getting a woman's perspective. Next week, we're going to do a live audience. There's going to be, men might come and kind of be in the space. I'm not even going to lead it. There's going to be another woman that leads the conversation. And so if you're interested, what I want you to do is kind of just send a message to me, and I can make sure that it kind of gets to the person. We're going to kind of set up the space here at the Connect Center a little different for all of the women that are going to be here. It may be a little longer just because of the amount of women, but we're just looking forward to this dialogue and this conversation of, a women's perspective of, what this stuff is going to look like. So you guys asked for it, so we're going to provide it. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Help me, Lord.
And so next week, hopefully, Jeree, who's Tom's wife,
my wife,
she's going to be present. She's going to be one of the ladies that are that's here in this space. And there's quite a few other women that are going to be in this space as well. And so we're just interested to hear perspectives. And, you guys have been hearing from men and our perspectives. And so we want to just kind of hear what y'all got to say about some stuff. Y'all might be able to give us some tips and some helpful, whatever. But entrepreneurship, I just want you to just encourage somebody as it relates to entrepreneurship. And after that, man, we're really just going to sign out. So we're going to be finished. Man, I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you guys have any questions about just anything, but more specifically women, or if you're interested in being a part of the panel or in the conversation next week, shoot me a inbox. Is going to be live here at the Connect Center. And we're going to kind of set the space up for you guys to kind of have that dope dialogue. All right. Encourage these entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest encouragement that I can give anybody that is aspiring, that is already an entrepreneur, is consistency. Because at the end of the day, God forbid, but everything that you try is not going to succeed on the first time. around. But consistency builds character. When you're consistent with something, it builds character. And that person that told you no the first time may not tell you no the second time because they see the consistency and the character that you built through this. And you know what I mean? And the more that you go through it, to me, failure has always been the best teacher because I do it. I might get emotional about it, but I learn from it. And when I learn from it, I can go back and revamp that which I was working on. And that's where consistency comes in. Because just because you finish a business plan don't mean that it's done. That means you might have to come back and revisit because something that is not working the way that it should work. And because of that, you got to revamp it. So I would just say be consistent in what you're doing because consistency builds character.
Yeah, so that consistency is dope, bro. So thank you so much for just giving us your time. As always, I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate what future holds for not only us but like just your family as well. Yeah, man, this is gonna be dope.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be
Forward
dope.
to it.
All right, man. So we're gonna sign out, and yeah, we about to sign out. So we'll see y'all next Thursday, ladies. Leave your man at home.
I can't wait for this. Oh, that should be the name of it.
Ladies, leave your man at home. Next week is going down.
I'm gonna have the wine sitting next to the table with the legs crossed like,
It's going to go down. I think it's going to be super fun. We're just gonna, just let y'all rock out. There may be some guys here that's going to be working the cameras just because if there's a large kind of, large turnout of women who wants to kind of talk and like dialogue, we wants to kind of create that space. But if not, ladies, don't say because y'all asked for it. Y'all said, hey, y'all should do a panel for women and X, Y, and Z. All right, cool. We're doing it next Thursday. Hit me up. I'll make sure your information is to the right person and they'll reach out to you, kind of give you guys the information and we'll go from there. All right, but we're out for tonight. So y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.